What do you actually know about the Yamaha R1? Not the name, not the color, not the fact that it's fast. What do you actually know? Because most people who think they know the R1 know about 10% of it.
10%!
And that 10% is already enough to make them stop what they're doing when one rolls past.
This video is the other 90%. 5 levels, 1 machine, and by the time we're done, you will never look at this bike the same way again. Not because of the horsepower, not because of the carbon fiber, but because of what it cost the entire motorcycle industry to pretend they weren't watching. Before we go deeper, if you're the kind of person who watches a video about motorcycle levels instead of just buying one and crashing it, you belong here. Hit follow, hit subscribe, turn on notifications. Because Level 1 is already going to change how you see this thing. Level 01, the casual fan.
A fan! Not a fan.
You know you're at the right kind of party when you say R1 and someone doesn't ask you which insurance provider that is?
Insurance.
The Yamaha YZF R1 launched in 1998. Yamaha's superbike sales had been in free fall, so they didn't update an existing model, they burned the blueprint and started over.
Start over.
The slogan was 2 words, no compromise.
Nah!
They meant it. 998cc inline 4, 150 horsepower, a dry weight of 177 kilograms, at a time when those numbers were borderline irresponsible.
You are really responsible.
But here's the thing most people at Level 1 don't know. What made the R1 dangerous to the industry wasn't the power.
It's not real power.
It's fake power.
It was one engineering decision buried inside the engine. Chief engineer Kunihiko Miwa repositioned the gearbox main shaft above the crankshaft instead of beside it. The world's first vertically stacked gearbox.
Where is it?
That made the engine shorter, which made the chassis tighter, which allowed a longer swing arm, more grip, better stability, faster cornering.
This way's faster.
One man, one decision. Every major superbike manufacturer spent the next decade quietly copying it.
Stop copying me!
The R1 didn't arrive politely. It arrived at a moment when Honda's Fireblade was untouchable, the benchmark, the gold standard, the bike everyone else was chasing.
Dr. Chase and Dr.
And Yamaha didn't just challenge it, they made it look like it belonged in a different conversation.
Is there no one else?
That's not a product launch, that's a declaration of war.
This is war.
Honda, Suzuki, and Kawasaki reportedly spent 1999 in engineering meetings that mostly consisted of staring at the R1 and saying, how?
How?
Ducati said nothing publicly.
Not in public.
But if you look closely at their 2002 technical documents, you can find the exact paragraph where the sweating begins. Here's the industry ripple you never hear about at Level 1. The stacked gearbox didn't stay in the R1. Within a few years, it spread across the segment. The R1 didn't just win a sales war, it rewrote the architecture of the leader-class superbike. Before the R1, engines were packaged one way. After it, they were packaged another. That original 1998 colorway, bold red and white, there was also a blue version. Nobody remembers the blue version. The red one was the one that ended friendships and started obsessions. Level 2. The Enthusiast.
An enthusiast.
I know what it sounds like.
Okay.
The crossplane R1 produces a sound that is legally distinct from a normal inline 4.
So good. So good.
It's been described as a V8 having an existential crisis at 14,000 RPM. That is not a malfunction.
Really?
That is the entire point. In 2009, Yamaha introduced the crossplane crankshaft, pulled directly from their MotoGP M1 race machine and dropped into a bike you could buy at a dealership.
Take my money.
A conventional inline 4 fires at 180-degree intervals. The crossplane fires at 90-degree intervals. The same pattern as a V4. The result? Dramatically reduced inertia torque under acceleration. The rear tire gets smoother, more consistent power delivery. The rider gets what engineers call throttle feel. Everyone else calls it telepathy. There's something that happens when you hear a crossplane R1 under hard acceleration. It doesn't register in your ears first, it registers in your sternum, your hands, something lower. That sound isn't a byproduct of the engineering, it is the engineering, made audible. It's the reason people who have heard it once never forget it.
Can't forget it.
Other manufacturers spent millions developing traction control systems to solve the rear tire chatter problem. Yamaha solved it by making the engine sound like a demon and feel like a surgeon.
Clear.
Both approaches work. Only one of them has a fan club. The crossplane exhaust note has been used in film soundtracks, video games, and reportedly at least 2 wedding proposals that went extremely well.
Whether the R1 or the proposal was the decisive factor remains unclear.
Unclear.
Here's where the industry story gets interesting again. The cross-plane concept, irregular firing intervals, improving tire feedback, didn't stay with Yamaha. Ducati, Aprilia, BMW all moved toward irregular firing patterns in the decade that followed.
Copycat.
Before the cross-plane R1, horsepower won arguments. After it, character entered the conversation. Yamaha also makes the R6, smaller, lighter, more high-pitched. R6 owners will tell you their bike is more surgical on a track. R1 owners will agree completely, and then go back to not caring.
Level 3, the student of generations. I've tracked every update. I know what changed and why.
I know.
The 2015 R1 was so completely redesigned that several veteran riders described it as everything I loved, but angrier and smarter. That is not a criticism. That is the highest possible review. The 2015 generation wasn't a refresh. It was Yamaha asking a specific question. What's the minimum we need to change to make our MotoGP machine street legal? The answer was a complete reimagination. New electronics, traction control, anti-wheelie, launch control, slide control, lift control, quick shift, up and down, brake control, power modes. All standard. All on a bike you could finance.
1 year before the 2015 R1 launched, these features existed only on factory MotoGP machines costing millions of euros. Yamaha took that technology, certified it for public roads, and put a price tag on it. Every generation of the R1 was Yamaha making a statement. 1998 said, we're here. 2009 said, we're not finished. 2015 said, we've been learning things in MotoGP that you're not ready for. And we're giving them to you anyway. Most bikes get updated. The R1 got a philosophy. The 2015 R1 introduced the IMU, a 6-axis sensor that reads your lean angle, acceleration, braking force, and pitch in real time. It is smarter than most decisions people made in their 20s. It knows your lean angle. It knows your feelings. It is choosing not to mention them. Launch control on a production motorcycle means you can now legally
18.
purchase the ability to leave traffic lights in a way that is technically not illegal, but spiritually absolutely is. Here's the industry consequence of 2015 that most people miss. The electronics package Yamaha put on the R1 that year became the new baseline expectation for every leader class superbike that followed. What was premium in 2015 was standard across the segment by 2020. Yamaha didn't just build a better R1, they raised the floor for what a production superbike was required to be. The 2015 R1 spec sheet was so dense with acronyms SCS, LIF, LCS, PWR, QSS, BC that several motorcycle journalists had to take a second pass just to finish reading it. The ones who understood it all bought one. The ones who didn't wrote that it was perhaps too much electronics for the road.
It's too much for me.
Level 04, the R1M Owner. The R1M comes with an engraved serial number badge. This is Yamaha's way of saying this specific motorcycle has a name.
I have a name!
And a number, and it will outlast the argument you're about to have with yourself about whether you can afford it.
I'll buy it!
The R1M is the R1 with every constraint removed.
Ow, really?
Öhlins electronic racing suspension, front and rear, with a dedicated suspension control unit that reads the IMU data in real time and adjusts damping independently for each wheel, depending on whether you're braking, cornering, or accelerating. Not between corners, during them. Full carbon fiber bodywork, carbon windscreen, carbon fairings, carbon fender, carbon tail, magnesium wheels. The weight savings are measured in grams and felt in everything.
I can feel it.
And then the data logger, GPS lap timer, simultaneous logging from the IMU, ECU, and GPS, reviewable from a phone or tablet, corner by corner, input by input. This is not a motorcycle you ride, it's a motorcycle you debrief.
Brief.
The R1M makes people quiet, not because it intimidates, though it does, but because some part of them recognizes that what they're looking at is a decade of cumulative knowledge compressed into a single object. That serial number badge is a small thing, but it communicates something the spec sheet cannot.
What is it?
What is it? What is it?
This one is yours. There is no other one like it, and that matters more than people will ever say out loud.
Not yours. Yours.
The carbon fiber bodywork saves approximately 3 kilograms over the standard R1. At R1M pricing, that works out to roughly $1,200 per kilogram saved. At that point, you're not purchasing weight reduction. You're purchasing the story of weight reduction. Worth it.
I'm losing weight.
The Öhlins electronic suspension adjusts faster than a human can perceive, meaning the motorcycle was actively correcting your mistakes before your brain had finished registering them.
I I'm here to correct that mistake.
This is either impressive engineering or the most polite insult ever delivered at 150 miles per hour.
The R1M exists partly because of World SBK homologation rules. You need a road-legal production version of what you race. Yamaha used that requirement not as a compliance box to check, but as a mandate to build the most serious road-going superbike they could justify. The rulebook said, make a road version. Yamaha heard, make the best version.
Only the best.
R1M production is limited each year.
Which means
Somewhere right now, a person is refreshing a dealership website with the same expression usually reserved for World Cup penalty shootouts. They have done this 17 times today. They are not stopping.
Level 5. The industry. There is a version of 1999 where the heads of engineering at Kawasaki, Honda, and Suzuki are in separate rooms, holding the same R1 brochure,
What are we doing here?
arriving at the same realization. That version is not hypothetical. It happened. The meetings that followed lasted years.
Long time.
Count what the R1 put into the industry and never took back. The stacked gearbox, 1998, copied across the segment within a decade. The cross-plane crankshaft, 2009, convinced the entire industry that firing intervals and throttle character were worth optimizing. Irregular firing orders became a selling point industry-wide. The 2015 electronics suite redefined the production superbike baseline. IMU-based rider rates, launch control, slide control, within 5 years expected on every competitor at the same price tier. The R1M data logger and serial numbered exclusivity model shifted how manufacturers thought about limited production halo bikes. It wasn't enough to make something fast, you had to make it specific.
Not enough.
Each of these wasn't just a product feature, it was a new standard the rest of the industry had to meet or fall behind.
I can't leave them behind.
Here's what makes the R1 story genuinely rare. It didn't have one defining moment. It had 5 generations of defining moments, each one building on the last, each one forcing a response from the competition.
Most motorcycles have a peak year. The R1 had a run, and somewhere in the middle of that run, it stopped being just Yamaha's flagship and became the industry's measuring stick.
You drive a stick,
When
right?
competitors announced a new superbike, the first question was always the same. How does it compare to the R1?
How bad is it? How bad is it?
That's not dominance. That's something deeper. That's legitimacy. The R1 has been around long enough that there are now professional motorcycle racers who had an R1 poster on their bedroom wall as children, who now race a machine directly descended from that poster.
That's my dream!
Whether that's inspiring or terrifying depends entirely on how old you are when you read it. In 2024, Yamaha announced the R1 would be discontinued due to emissions regulations. The motorcycle internet's response was the closest the community has come to collective grief since they stopped making the RD350. Comment sections that normally argue about tire pressure became unexpectedly sincere.
Very sincere.
The R1 is not being retired because it failed. It's being retired because the world changed around it. Emissions frameworks that didn't exist in 1998, market priorities that shifted, a regulatory landscape that a high-compression inline-4 can no longer navigate without becoming something it was never meant to be.
Not meant to be.
When they stop making the R1, historians will debate which generation was the greatest. This debate will run for decades. Everyone will be wrong, because the correct answer is the one that made you feel something.
I can feel it.
And that answer is different for every person who's ever sat on one. 5 levels, from the person who recognized the name
I can see you.
to the person who understood what it cost everyone else to respond to it. The R1 was not always the most powerful bike on the market.
Not always.
It was not always the lightest. It was not always the fastest around a specific track on a specific day.
Again.
Not always.
But it was relentlessly, consistently, stubbornly itself.
And you are very stubborn.
And in an industry where itself meant lighter, faster, smarter, more honest, more alive, that was enough. More than enough. This is Sundrift. We don't just ride, we understand.
I understand.
If this video hit different, follow, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Easy, because the next one goes deeper.
See you again.